Welcome back, everyone. Sorry for the slight delay. Our next speaker will tell you how he accidentally became an ISP. Please welcome Milan.
Thank you. So I'm going to start with an introduction about this talk. Many of you probably read the synopsis, but basically this is my journey into the world of wireless ISPs, and it's basically the struggle that caused me to even consider and eventually start a wireless ISP business. So a little bit about me. I'm 23 years old. I'm from a small village near the town of Kostolac in Serbia. Kostolac is near Požarevac. Some of you may know Požarevac. I'm a developer, I'm a network engineer, and I call myself an ICT solutions consultant, as I do consulting for ICT solutions. I'm very passionate about new technologies, and I'm even more passionate about the telco industry. So last year I gave a lightning talk regarding rural broadband, and yeah, I still have a dream of changing the world. I had it since I was a kid, so yeah, that's a small introduction. What caused me to actually consider becoming a wireless ISP? So this is a picture on the slide of a SARS-CoV-2 virion. It's in cyan, not in red, as is usually depicted, because red is cliché. But yeah, so I started working in Belgrade in 2018 when I turned 18 years old, and everything was fine until COVID started in March of 2020. The company that I worked for sent us all to work from home. So basically we were forced to not come to the office. And since I didn't have an apartment, I rented an apartment, I decided to cancel an apartment in Belgrade, just to save money and to not sit locked in a small, shitty apartment alone. And yeah, I moved back to my parents' house in the village, and it was fine, except I quickly ran into a huge problem. And the problem was I needed fast internet. The project that I worked on, I would usually have to download the 200 gigabyte files, database dumps to debug customers' issues. And yeah, I only had the ADSL in the village. The village still only has ADSL. So downloading 200 gigabytes at a 10, 15 megabit connection is really slow, and it's a huge productivity drain. So I started quickly looking into solutions. 4G was out of the picture immediately because at the time biggest packages were 200 gigabytes per month, and yeah, that just wasn't going to cut it. And 4G speeds again weren't that great. Upload was excellent, but download gets bogged down. So I almost immediately got a crazy idea. What if I just get a cable connection and at a friend's apartment in the city, and create a wireless link between the two. So from the city to the village, it's around 2.5 kilometers. And I got two Ubiquiti Lightbeam AC Gen 2 antennas. It's not actually just an antenna, it's antenna plus radio, RF front end, router, whatever, I just call it an antenna, or CPE, customer premise equipment. And yeah, that worked fine for a bit. Unfortunately, cable internet is shitty. So the provider that I got the connection from, it's the biggest cable ISP in Serbia. I won't mention them by name, but you all know them. And the problem was that their infrastructure in the exact building, unfortunately the only building where I could get a line of sight link to the village, was awful. So every time it rained or it snowed, liquid would get into the passive splitters and connectors, and it would cause connection interruptions. So TV cuts out and internet stops working, and when it dries out, it starts working again. And unfortunately, I was literally unable to get them to fix it. It affected, I think, at least 3 stories in the building, probably the whole building, and yeah, probably even more buildings, but they just didn't fix it. I'm not going to say didn't want, couldn't, whatever, it just wasn't fixed. So the link was great, the wireless connection was excellent, but the actual internet was awful. So it would cut out constantly, and I needed a different solution. And I again got another crazy idea. What if I got fiber? In the city, you can't get a GPON, so passive optical network connection. There is no GPON in infrastructure, of course not even in the village. But you can get a business fiber connection, and that's when they literally dig out and lay fiber just for you, however many kilometers it needs. And yeah, so I went ahead, started a company, and literally just bought a business fiber connection. And that was great. It's perfect, except fiber is really expensive. The connection usually costs around 600 euros per month, and I managed to get a great deal at 300 euros per month, which, I mean, you get a 200 megabit connection. That's great. It's extremely expensive. I can still afford it, but I immediately started looking at ways to maybe even make profit, if not at least share the blessed gift of a fast internet connection with other people. So I basically decided I'm going to start reselling this. So I had a simple idea. I would build out a point-to-point backhaul network. So I would have an access point in the village. I would have not an access point, a base station with 3 sectors in the village, in the city, and later, yeah, it grew. So I bought the equipment and started trying to become an ISP. So the first thing I have to share with everybody is don't expect help. If you're going to do networking, if you're going to become an ISP, people who are great at networking are really busy, and they really don't want to help those who know nothing. They are constantly bombarded with ridiculous questions, and I mean the questions I asked, and I mean I still ask, they are pretty dumb. So you will have to do stuff on your own. Maybe some people won't. That was my experience regarding networking. You can't really get a lot of help where everything is handed to you on the platter. So you ain't gonna get help, or you'll get Clippy level help. So let's go into the technical challenges. The problems that you run into as soon as you basically build out the infrastructure, to get it working properly, it doesn't take a lot of work or knowledge, etc. But you need to be wary of a few things. So the first problem is spectrum. Spectrum is scarce. It's like a natural resource that's shared, and there is not a lot of free spectrum available. So wireless communications in the 5 gigahertz spectrum are so-called unlicensed, because you don't need a specific license to use them, and nobody will guarantee you any spectrum. In modern urban environments, you can expect extremely high levels of noise. So it's in the low 80s. So for example, minus 85, 88 decibels. And that requires you to have a really high received power to get the correct signal interference noise ratio, or SI SINR, to get the proper modulation and a proper connection. So spectrum is going to be really challenging. You're going to have to constantly move, and that lasts the whole lifetime of the network. So every time some other ISP or home router takes up your connection, you will have to move it. Unfortunately, automatic scanning doesn't really work well. So, and yeah, I'll also avoid DFS, dynamic frequency scanning, at all costs. So don't use the frequencies that are shared with weather radar, etc., as that will cause a small but noticeable interruption every time the base station detects interference or a weather radar and has to move. So just avoid them. So the second technical challenge is the location. Location for your first tower is extremely important, as when starting you don't have a lot of money. The ideal location is a high up building where you can put, for relatively low cost, basically just a small tower with 3 sectors and a point-to-point link. Unfortunately, you can't cover even a small area with just one tower because of line of sight issues. Your customers will have buildings in front of you. They will have trees, they will have whatever, so you'll need at least a few towers. When starting up, you need to be very careful about choosing the location for the first one, and yeah, just buy the most expensive equipment you can afford for the actual tower. So the next challenge is yeah, the network design. This is a visualization of my network. So the blue dots are the base stations, and the green or red dots are customers. So the network is pretty small currently. It has only 42 customers, and it's split in 3 layer 2 domains. The reason for that is that every point of presence or base station needs backup internet access. So it was just simpler to use DHCP and split them up into different segments. So the traffic usually flows from the main location, which is in the lower left, that's in the village, through wireless links. But in case the link breaks, or if, for example, the fiber were to break, the network will reorganize. I mean, it's MikroTik with NetWatch, but it will reorganize to use whatever available uplink to the internet. And all customer premise equipment, all the antennas are in bridge mode, and the routers are the demarcation point. So it's really simple network design. I didn't use PPPoE. It's probably going to be done in the future, but the routers that I give out to customers are just really cheap, and yeah, I don't want to bog them down with encapsulation. So the next technical challenge is actually obeying the law. So RATEL is the Serbian regulatory agency for telecommunications and postal exchange. In general, it's pretty easy. You need to be registered as a company. You then need to submit a form of around 10 papers where you fill out the details, tell them about your network, tell them about your customers, expected customer base, etc. And yeah, they will just stamp it and tell you, yeah, you're now a provider. You have just a few things to worry about. First of all, worry about the frequencies you use, worry about the EERP, so emitted, effective isotropic irradiated power. So don't set your antennas to the max. Respect the legal limits. It depends on the frequency that you're using, and yeah, they have a pretty good rule book about it. The second, a bit more problematic, is about you have to keep track of who is doing what, who of your customers is doing something nasty on the network. So the way I and most ISPs do that is you use deterministic CGNet. So CGNet, carrier grade net, and deterministic here basically means every customer will get allocated a fixed set of outgoing ports. And when you get a court order to tell them who from your public IP that you give out to all customers, or a range of IPs, doesn't matter, and a specific port at a specific time did something nasty, and you can just look at the table and know I always give out these 1024 ports to these customers, so it was him. So deterministic CGNet saves resources. You don't have to log connections, you don't have to log outgoing traffic, etc. And another requirement is lawful interception of traffic. So if you get a court order that you have to intercept traffic, with MikroTik it's pretty easy. You can just mirror, you can create a filter where the source address or the destination is the internal IP of the customer, and you stream that to a server that the police or the high-tech crimes division gives you, and then they can just use it, look at it in Wireshark or whatever they want. I mean, yeah, it's not that hard, but you need to do it. If you don't do it, you're not a real ISP. So that's the technical challenges. I mean, it's pretty easy. You can just set up a network quickly. The bigger problem is the business challenges. So in general, first of all, you have to learn to climb. So climb ladders, climb roofs, climb attics, etc. If you're tall and or weigh more than 60 kilograms, I'm not exaggerating, yeah, you have to find a friend who can fit into very, very small spaces for you, if when necessary. So you have to learn to climb. You have to learn to do customer support. You have to learn to remain calm despite what the fuck is the customer is yelling at you. You can never lose your temper with customers. You will have to do marketing. You will have to do door-to-door sales, print flyers, design the website. So yeah, and the biggest problem is of course money. So building out any kind of network requires a huge upfront investment, especially if you're like if you don't have investors, if you didn't take out credit, you're just using your pocket change to build out a network. So by my calculations, doing the network properly, which includes buying proper base stations, not shitty knockoff ones or used ones from Hungary or something, you will need around 3,600 euros to build out a base station and the point-to-point link. And that's in general a lot of money, especially given how long it takes to get it back. You need to purchase equipment. So if you're starting out, always have at least 20 kits for a new customer at stock. And when the number starts going down by 10, get another 10. So the kit for a customer is usually the antenna itself. So it's usually a Ubiquiti, non-station loco, or air grid or light beam, etc. And a router, cable, or whatever. Yeah. So you need 20 kits. That's a good number to have, as you can have quickly like 5-10 installations in a few days and then nothing. So that's one of the business problems. Another very big problem is that customer support requires painkillers. People are really dumb, unfortunately. And what's even more unfortunate, dumb people usually don't know they're dumb. So they will call you. And if it's a nice old person, nice old guy, a nice old lady who has problems contacting their grandchildren on Viber or something because they don't know how to connect to Wi-Fi, that's fine. They don't know technology, but they're not dumb. If it's somebody who starts the call screaming, it doesn't matter how good with technology they are dumb. And the best advice I can give, other than learn to remain calm whenever on a call, is get rid of problematic customers ASAP. They are not worth it, and they cost extremely much. Even huge telcos do it. So huge telcos have blacklists of customers who don't necessarily need to owe them anything. They can just be like problematic. And there are cases, I mean, even in Serbia, where people got cheap fiber connections, GPON, and used it for Chia mining, and yeah, they just got blacklisted because they were utilizing the whole node for just one customer 24/7 and paying like 10 euros for a 5 gigabit download and 2.5 gigabit upstream connection. Yeah, that's not sustainable. Other advice I can give you, never give out your personal number, personal info. Always have a business phone, even better if you can set up a call center. I set up a call center with free PBX, very simple. Used basically a virtual mobile provider here in Serbia. They have a VoIP app. You can man in the middle of the traffic, get the SIP parameters and put it into free PBX. And whenever somebody calls your mobile number, actually it will over SIP ring the call center. And then if it's working hours, it will forward the call to your personal mobile number. Yeah. Locations are expensive. That's another business problem. You should never, or if possible, almost never pay to rent a location. That's just a waste of money. Always try to find out a better location. It's better, it's cheaper to build out a multi-hop link rather than paying for a great location. Renting towers in general is extremely expensive. It's a few thousand euros per month, and you need to have a lot of certification for electrical safety. You need to be certified in a lot of things. You can't just like climb up a telco's tower and yeah, I'm gonna put this antenna here. But it's not worth it even if you could. So try to give out free internet in exchange for access to building's roof. Even it's cheaper to give a free internet to the whole building rather than rather than paying anything, because in general the internet doesn't cost you anything, and most people don't use their connection nearly as much as they think they do. Another huge business problem is equipment breaks. I made a huge mistake in buying used equipment at first. That's fine for customer equipment. That's not good for base stations, because when the base station breaks, you will have a lot of customers going offline. So that's a huge problem. You should buy expensive equipment for the base station. For the customer, yeah, whatever. I mean, if they insist on getting new equipment, you can charge them for it. Always have replacement kits in your car for everything. So have a full base station, the core router, and a few switches ready, because when they break, all hell breaks loose if you have to wait a week or so to get the equipment shipped. And the biggest problem, of course, is you need to scale to win, or you will just die trying. You need to get as much customers as fast as possible. As I said, people don't use the connections nearly as much as they do. So, for example, my 42 customers at peak times use about 70 megabits. And yeah, so the 200 megabit connection is offloaded, and that 70 megabits includes me. And so you really need to get at least 100 customers, maybe 200, to be able to earn anything or even break even. So as the quicker you can scale, the better chance you have to actually survive the business. If you don't scale quickly enough, you will literally run out of money. So the takeaways. I mentioned some of them already, yeah. But in general, this isn't a quickly profitable business. You need a few years to turn any profit, and you should be wary of problems that you will, the motivation problems that come with running such a business. So to sum it up quickly, the technical takeaways: you should invest in high quality equipment. Yeah, don't buy the shady equipment that fell off at the truck. It's counterfeit almost always, and it'll just break. If it doesn't break, it won't work nearly as good as it should. Always have the replacement equipment ready. Have at minimum 2 separate internet links. So I have for each point of presence a separate either 4G, VDSL, whatever was available. I didn't mention this as much. Shape on the core, not the CP. So you should do bandwidth shaping on the core router. Don't do it on the antennas. Don't do it on the customer routers. They are too weak to do it effectively. You should use port isolating switches and VLANs wherever possible. I don't have it nearly as everywhere that I should, but this is important in case a customer who's not a malicious one just plugs in their LAN side of the router into the antenna, and their router tries to become the DHCP server for the whole network. This is easily resolved. Even on the base station, you just stick client isolation, and they won't be able to talk to each other. But it's best, if possible, to separate each customer on a LAN, or if not, segregate customers as much as possible. You should have backup power for at least 3 hours at every point of presence. Of course, this is in a Serbian village. Depends on where you are. If you're in central Belgrade, well, if you are somewhere in Belgrade, somewhere or not, you won't have power outages for years. But yeah, you should have a UPS. The equipment uses very little power, around 50 watts, so you can run it for a long time with relatively affordable UPSs. For the business takeaways, again, buy expensive, high-quality equipment for the base stations. You should set expectations for your customers. So teach your customers that they don't matter to you sounds really harsh, but it's true. Basically, they need to know if they constantly bother you with non-problems, that they will just be suspended, as you don't need such customers. I mean, it's not possible to do everything yourself and also handle such customer cases. You need to accept that you'll be dealing with support, and you need to take in mind, even though co-locating equipment costs a lot, don't build skunkworks towers. I mean, if something falls down and damages, you'll be in huge trouble. So if nothing else is possible, pay somebody, pay an agency to create a project and build out proper infrastructure for example, a backhaul link or something. And you should invest a lot in marketing. Marketing is much more important than the technical state of your network, and you really, 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 really need to spend a lot of money for marketing. Customer acquisition costs are high, but customers in general, once they come to you, they won't want to move away. That's the reason that marketing is so important and that customer acquisition costs are so high. So the question sets itself, would I do it again? Yes, I would, absolutely. I'm not doing this for profit. I'm doing this as it's my hobby, and I really like doing networking, even more wireless networking. And I mean, I'm giving this talk to make myself feel better after every long day at work, and then after work at 5, I get in the car and I drive wherever something broke, and then I go on the roof and I sweat in scorching heat, or I almost freeze to death, and yeah, I come home at like 11 p.m. and at least I did something, at least I fixed something. I can see on the graphs the traffic is going and customers are using it. So yeah, I would definitely do it again. Would I do it the same? Absolutely not. As I said, I didn't make a lot of mistakes, as I did think it's true, but buy expensive equipment. Where possible, if you really don't know something and can't learn, hire somebody to do it. You have to balance it, of course, with the actual risk of bankruptcy if you hire some consultancy. Yeah, but my biggest mistakes are cheap equipment and trying to do everything by myself and failing. I don't have any catastrophic stories to share, fortunately or unfortunately for the audience. So in general, yeah, those are the takeaways. And my further steps in this journey are to scale to first 100 customers, then 200, and improve the network along the way. So we'll see how it goes. I literally don't think too much into the future. Nobody knows what will happen tomorrow. But yeah, I need a lot of customers. So the next steps are basically marketing. Yeah, so this is the end. The slides are available. Yeah, we're almost out of time. The slides are available at the link. And yeah, that's my website, and see you at the party. Yeah, you can just wait for the mic. Or, yeah. Thank you.
Hi. Yeah. So the question is, if your services are bulletproof, because in Serbia you are as an ISP you are obliged to preserve your data for 12 months. So if someone did something illegal using your network and law enforcement ask you for data, so the question is if you are bulletproof or not.
If I understood it correctly, can I provide the data 12 months in the past?
Yeah.
I can due to deterministic net mapping, and when a customer cancels the account, it's written in the notes. So looking back at the time, who had the specific net mapping, I can give info on the customer who actually did something. So I can point to who it is, but I do not record nor have the resources to record the actual metadata.
But you have to, because you're obliged as an ISP. That's a serious legal issue that you have to consider. Yeah.
As far as I and legal people I have talked to, I don't have to store the metadata, at least not under, it could be maybe different for ISPs based on the number of customers, but I need to have the ability to intercept traffic and to have the basically ability to identify a specific user on the network based on the public IP and the outgoing port. But storing the actual net flow data, or even the metadata,
it's always a cost.
Sorry?
It's always a cost for you and a lot of technical issues. So have you received any inquiry from law enforcement?
No.
Not yet.
And I hope I won't.
Hopefully. Good luck.
Thank you.
Hello. Hello. My question is from your point of view, from the networking point of view, and also from the point of view of economics. How smart would it be to one day buy your competitor's network and incorporate it in your own? Thank you.
I think it would rather happen the other way around. To be honest, I have no idea. Given the design, the state of the network right now, there is nothing to integrate into. This is a really, really simple SOHO network that works. When it stops working, I'll upgrade it, of course. But yeah, it's more probable when or if I get bored that the biggest wireless ISP in Serbia would acquire me. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello. Yeah, you said that you use CGNet, so I'm wondering how many public IP addresses do you actually own, and what's the ratio of customers to one public IP address?
Yeah, it's 4 addresses, and the ratio is currently, so only 2 are in use, so it's 20 customers per IP.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and sorry, I would like add that I dislike that you say that people are dumb because I think so that this conference that is a speech of discrimination against people that are not in IT topics. So please, I think it's not welcoming in this conference saying this. Yeah, and my question is how do you contribute and which software do you use in free software or open source? So how you improve the world of sharing, collaboration and free culture?
Yeah, so first of all, just to, regarding the first comment, yeah, I think I explicitly mentioned people who don't know, I don't call them dumb. People who just pick up the phone and start yelling and cursing, yeah, they're dumb. So I wouldn't necessarily call it discriminatory as its behavior and not a characteristic of personality or any other like type of characteristic. So it's a wrong choice of word, yes. A bit too late to change now, but in the speech, yeah, I thought I clarified. And regarding the second thing, unfortunately, I would really like to use OpenVRT. Unfortunately, given the amount of noise in the environment, I'm pretty much forced to use the proprietary Ubiquiti solution. So they use, they have their own like TDMA protocol, AirMax. And so regarding the physical or radio access layer, there is nothing to do. Regarding routing, it's MikroTik, also closed source. Regarding customers, so there's not a lot of open source in the telco world, unfortunately. I could see about improving, trying out OpenVRT again, but currently there is, I would say, almost zero, other than Linux, yeah, in the whole network.
Yeah, I suggest to you to check for mesh networking and this project has LibreRouter, LibreMesh, and BattleMesh, that is the every year meeting of open protocol in mesh working.
Sadly, that's all the time we have for questions. Everyone, please, another applause for Milan.
Thank you.